You may have experienced the wrath of a sleepy adolescent. Perhaps you were one yourself not so long ago. New research is helping to explain why adolescents have a problem with sleep, why it might be getting worse, and the impact it's having on their lives.
I think we all relate to sleep deprivation because there is no one on the planet that hasn't experienced it. Teenagers experience it on a chronic basis. It alters your mood, your happiness. It sets you up for psychological problems such as anxiety and depression. And the main impact we get worried about in teenagers is what we call the cognitive impact, the learning impact. And tired teenagers are unable to learn properly in the classroom, unable to perform in their exams. And of course that's very important because your teenage years are your key learning years, and your learning in those years defines your career and the rest of your life. We know from historical data that adolescents 50 years ago were getting just under 9 hours of sleep per night on average, and that's now reduced to 6.5 hours. Research shows that the average adolescent needs about 9.25 hours. So they're getting a couple of hours on average less than they need. 92% of adolescent sleep problems are not even recognised or addressed at general practice level, so they never get treated.
Well, with school, I fall asleep in class, I can't concentrate, I can't do my work. It's just a big hassle. When I come home in the afternoon to do my homework, I can't remember learning anything the day before or that day. I can't remember anything because I didn't focus in class because I couldn't stay awake.
One of the key things for parents to look at is what their teenager does on weekends or school holidays. So when a teenager has the opportunity to sleep as much as they want on a non-school day, the more they sleep in, the more sleep deprived they are during the week. So the amount you sleep in is a predictor of what's called your sleep debt or your lack of weeknight sleep. And your sleep in is also a predictor of cognitive impairment. So the more you sleep in, the more cognitively impaired you will be during the week.
When I get up in the morning, I'm always grumpy with my parents, which is always stressful. And then in the afternoon, I'm still tired. Even when I have to go to work, I'm still annoyed at my parents and my friends.
They don't always understand that they are tired. So often their tiredness is expressed as mood problems, feeling unhappy, and interviewing teenagers tells us that a lot of teenagers are stressed about their school and their social life. So those stresses are really amplified by sleep deprivation, and the corollary of that is those problems improve when the teenagers get better sleep and more sleep.
Tell me about sleep deprivation's impact on risky behaviours and on decision making.
Sleep deprivation in teenagers, particularly in boys, often results in risk-taking behaviour. The part of the brain that's a little bit underdeveloped in teenagers is called the prefrontal cortex, and this is the bit of our brain that helps us make what's called executive decisions, ethical decisions, moral decisions. Because this bit of the brain is not fully mature in teenagers, sleep deprivation tends to cause teenagers to make wrong decisions and risky decisions.
Can you tell me about circadian rhythm and melatonin? How is it regulated and what happens when it goes wrong?
We all sleep at night and awake during the day, not only because it's dark, but because one of our brain's hormones called melatonin increases at night, enabling us to sleep. It's like a sleeping drug for us, and it decreases during the day to make us fresh. And the reason we get jet lag is because our melatonin gets turned upside down. Some teenagers, perhaps 15 to 20% of teenagers, have a melatonin pattern which is late. So that means their increase in melatonin at night, which puts them to sleep, might occur 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours later than it should. What we also know with late melatonin is that if you can train it to be earlier, which is a lot of the work that we do by restructuring sleep, but you can also train it to become worse. So again, if a teenager with a late melatonin pattern develops bad bed-related habits and lots of electronic and media usage, then their melatonin becomes later still.
We often, as adults, sleep with our phones next to our beds on all night, so it's not something that's occurring only in teens. Tell me about the term infomania.
Infomania is a new term to describe the expectant watching and waiting for a return electronic message. And I think we've all felt this at some time. In the old days, it used to be waiting for a letter or a Christmas card. Some teenagers find infomania quite appealing, and the buzz they get is not so much what comes back in the text or email message, but is the expectant wait. And in general terms, an expectant wait is fine, but again, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, that expectancy causes you to be more awake. So even after you get the return message, it's often hard to get back to sleep. Mobile phones and other electronic media in the bedroom are so tempting to teenagers that it's very hard for them to have it at their arm's length but not use it. So over 60% of teenagers who wake up at night will use electronic media. 92% of teenagers don't turn their mobile phone off in the bedroom at night.
I leave my phone on my desk, which is about 30 centimetres away from me at night.
So what happens when it beeps?
I usually get up and answer it.
And does that happen a lot?
Yeah, it does. I'm not going to lie. It happens a lot. I think when you're waiting for someone to reply, there is a sense of like nervousness and anxiety. You just really want to know the answer really quickly, because these days you can know the answer straight away with like stuff like Google and the internet. So yeah, when you finally get that text back, it's a big relief, I suppose.
We have a 24-hour-a-day society with availability of everything we want 24 hours a day. So I think it is correlated to electronic media, connectivity, and society's perception of what sleep is about. And have a sensible talk to your teenager about trying to prioritise sleep. Sleep currently is lowly prioritised because of all the other things that teenagers have to do in their very busy days. But there are great benefits in prioritising it. Having a sensible bedtime is important, and a pre-bedtime routine, a wind-down time, where you might avoid electronic devices for the 45 minutes before bedtime is very helpful.